A few years back, during my tenure on the third shift as a police officer for a small town in the South, myself and 6 fellow officers were confronted by an incredibly strange and baffling incident. This peculiar event unfolded when we responded to a disturbance call at a residence. The incident occurred around 2:40 a.m., shortly after local bars had closed for the night. Although the initial dispatch only sent 3 officers to the scene, all available officers, including the lieutenant, eventually arrived due to our familiarity with the residence and its occupants, which included juveniles. I was the 3rd officer to arrive on site and joined 2 experienced colleagues, both towering figures at 6'2" and 6'4". As we approached the scene, we noticed a significant number of vehicles parked both in the driveway and along the streets. Officer Hayes radioed for additional units to be prepared for a potentially challenging situation. Upon entering the residence, a middle-aged man greeted us and invited us in. The house was overflowing with extended family members. The man explained that his wife, who was currently upstairs, had been acting extremely odd, speaking as if possessed by someone else. He revealed that they had all recently returned from a funeral home where they had paid respects to his father, a renowned spiritual healer in their community. According to the man, his wife's behavior had taken a disturbing turn about 2 hours earlier during the funeral home visit. Consequently, they had brought her home to avoid causing further disruptions. Initially, her behavior was not as severe, but it had escalated and led to her attempting to jump off the staircase. Family members managed to restrain her and confine her to an upstairs bedroom. It was important to clarify that this incident wasn't related to domestic violence. With this understanding, 3 officers proceeded upstairs to assist the distressed female. While escorting her downstairs, I observed various small shrines and altars positioned throughout the house. As we guided the woman down the stairs, she began to resist, prompting my intervention. She started shouting about the presence of demons surrounding her, claiming they were closing in on her. She cried out that the pounding of drums signaled these malevolent entities to attack with the intent to kill her and drag her to hell. The 4 of us managed to restrain her and bring her into the kitchen, where she momentarily calmed down. However, she soon erupted again, exclaiming that we were restraining her against the demon's will. Her struggle intensified, and at that point, the lieutenant and 2 more officers entered the room. Recognizing the escalating danger, I ordered all family members out of the room as the woman attempted to seize a knife, presumably to harm herself. Her cries grew more desperate, proclaiming that her sins warranted death and that her deceased father-in-law was summoning demons to claim her soul. Despite the efforts of 2 officers to control her hands, she effortlessly flung them aside. I grasped her left arm and pulled her closer while other officers tried to lift her from the ground. In an astonishing turn of events, I felt a peculiar force and suddenly found myself on the opposite side of the room, sliding down the wall. It became clear that her strength defied reason. I witnessed her shove the officers aside. This unfathomable scene unfolded as all 7 of us attempted to subdue a woman who was barely 5 feet and weighed approximately 90 pounds. She positioned herself in the center of the room and growled like a savage creature. She insisted that she was repelling the demons to protect us and begged for our assistance. After being hurled around like rag dolls for 10 minutes, 2 officers finally managed to bear hug the woman from behind to immobilize her arms. Simultaneously, I seized her feet and the officers cuffed her hands. Although her hands were now restrained, her resistance persisted. We secured her legs to prevent further kicking, though her determination led to her handcuffs tearing into her wrists and arms and resulted in pools of blood. Her blood smeared across our uniforms and hands. Despite the relentless struggle, we eventually carried her to a squad car. Her thrashing caused more blood to splatter the vehicle's interior. Throughout the ordeal, she continued to shriek about the demon's relentless pursuit. When we arrived at the emergency room, we rushed her to an ER room where she was securely fastened to the bed using multiple restraints and handcuffs. She intermittently regained consciousness, scanning her surroundings with violent intensity. Her cries were a mixture of screams and growls. When the doctor finally entered the room, we informed him of the severe cuts and lacerations on her hands and wrists. He was baffled to find no visible injuries apart from the blood, which left us and the medical staff astounded. The female's chants continued in an eerie voice, punctuated by references to her father-in-law's demons. A sudden gust of wind swirled through the room and caused blankets to flutter. There were 5 officers present, including myself. It felt as if an invisible force pushed us back, creating distance between us and the bed. The woman's upper body lifted and snapped 2 sets of restraints. She proclaimed that the drums were growing louder and the demons were encircling us. They demanded that she submit. A fellow officer initially fell forward but then abruptly turned, as if some mysterious power held him in check. The woman insisted that she could see one of the demons restraining the officer on his knees. However, he retrieved a cross necklace and proclaimed, "God is with us, and these demons will have no power over us." In an instant, as if a switch had been flipped, the woman collapsed onto the bed and tranquility settled over the room. Each of us exchanged glances and heaved sighs of relief. One officer exclaimed, "What in the world just happened?" After a while, the woman's struggles subsided as she finally succumbed to unconsciousness. We could finally catch our breath and relax. It wasn't until 3 days later that I uncovered the full scope of the incident. A buddy of mine, who was a cop in another county, had relations with this ethnic community. He divulged that the deceased man had been a prominent spiritual healer. It was rumored that the daughter-in-law's treatment of him was far from kind, and that the woman was believed to be possessed by spirits who were sent by her deceased father-in-law to exact revenge for her ill treatment of him.